Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Hey, let's talk about Ryobi batteries. And in particular, the other day I had my power go out again. And it was out for about 4 hours, right at the end of the day when it was starting to get dark. So, needless to say, I got out this light here, put it on the battery, and set it up on top of the fridge that shined it into the living room area. And so we had light in the whole place. This thing lit up the whole room without any problem. And it worked well during that whole time. It ran it ran off of a 9 amp hour battery for the full time, the full 4 hours without any hassle. So I have a fairly good system. I'm probably going to make a couple more lights still from that I can then plug my batteries into to give me certain kinds of light. But it was interesting is that I also got out a power pack, one of my other power packs that I plugged the battery into. And I hooked up a 200 watt inverter, or maybe it was a 300 watt. I think it was a 200 watt. Anyway, it was big enough to run my computer that I keep on a table in my living room. It's on a rolling table, so I can roll it in front of my chair or over to where she is on the couch, maybe, or that type of thing, so you can move it to a different area. But anyway, it's just a regular all-in-one computer desktop unit, and so it'll run on what I think 60 watts or whatever they are, and so it was able to run this without any problem. It run the whole computer, and I plugged in a 5 amp hour battery into that power pack and hooked the inverter up and plugged everything into it, and it was running. Well, when I first got word, they said it'd be only down for a couple hours, and then later on it ended up being 2 hours longer. But so anyway, the battery I had in there was running out of juice after about 2.5, 3 hours, somewhere in that area. It was only a 5 amp hour battery that I'm running my computer from. And the problem I had is I realized in order to change out the battery, I had to actually turn off the computer, change the battery, and then boot the computer back up. And it made me realize that actually all my power packs should have at least slots for 2 batteries in them. So I think I'm going to start making one, and I have another one I can revamp pretty easily. And I'm going to put them so I can plug in multiple batteries into those power packs. That way, when it comes time and the batteries are running low, rather than having to disrupt the service, I can take one battery out, plug another one in, fully charged, take the other one that's almost dead out, and plug in the other one, and do all this in just a matter of seconds. And what that will do is allow me to keep going without disrupting the service, so I don't have to shut the computer off to change out the battery on the battery pack, which I think is really great. Or I can just use one battery and then just plug another one in and take that one and take it out and charge it while that one's being run. But I think a 2 battery unit where you can change the batteries out is not a bad way to go. The only thing you have to keep in mind that if you're going to use multiple batteries, and we're talking about the Ryobi batteries here, it actually probably applies to anything. You obviously you want them to be in the same state of charge. Also, if you're going to run them like that, which is basically in parallel, you really want them to be at the same state of charge when they're in there working. So, plus, I would not charge them from that battery pack. That's why I don't put charging capabilities on my battery pack units. I just take the battery out, put another one in, take that one to where I would charge it at a charging station and charge it up. So, that way you can change the batteries out and not disrupt the service. So I'm going to start making 2 battery pack type battery banks. That way, and again, I don't put charging in those banks. I just make it so that I can change the batteries out and I charge them at one location. So if I don't have any power, I'm hoping to have a one battery, 100 amp hour battery with a solar panel set up to where I can then take and plug these batteries in to that battery and charge these up at DC to DC type charging and charge these back up And that would continue getting charged back up from the solar during the daytime hours. And as long as that battery bank is big enough to charge up several of these in a day, I should be able to charge these up easily on that solar power station. And I use it just strictly to recharge my other batteries up. Is what it would basically really do. It wouldn't really run anything in the house from that battery, even though I could. I would save that as my battery backup, like the reserve of power that I can move from one battery to another. So anyway, I think that way I can get by with using a lot of these battery pack type things that you can build them pretty cheap. I could probably build them for, I would say $50. You can get enough, if you put enough adapters on them, you can put up to 4 batteries in it. And if you put 4 of these in there, you have a 30 amp, 4 times 9, 36. You have a 36 amp hour battery pack. That would pack quite a wallop. So, and charging them could be done just as readily if you had the right system set up to where you could charge them. So you can keep rotating. So anyway, that was my thought on that. What I really wanted to show you today was, one of the things I've done is, George, a friend of mine up in Canada, has his own channel. You look at my featured channels and you'll see his on there. But he did some 3D printing of some of my original early on battery projects to give me some way to be able to adapt it using his 3D printer. And he made 2 different runs from it, and they worked wonderful. But since then, I've also perfected making my own adapters. And nothing more than I buy the Ryobi clip, piece of PVC and some plywood and some hot glue, and I quickly have my own adapter that I can make. And I can make this for what? About $2 plus a couple of pieces of scrap. So this has actually been a pretty good, and it doesn't take long to make these. But there's those that just, and I've had a couple of people that said they tried to make it and they just haven't been able to make it as well as I had. It didn't really work very well. So I don't know what they're doing wrong. But I think they were just frustrated. It does take a little practice to make them yourself if you're going to make them, like anything. But you don't have to. AliExpress has them out there. And I'll show you 2 examples I just bought. I bought 5 of these, and I bought 5 of these. I'll leave sources on where I got this off of AliExpress so you can see. But they wanted like $6 a piece, plus about $4 shipping or whatever it was. But I found that when I bought 5 of them, the shipping went up only less than 50 cents or whatever it was per additional one. So when I got to 5, the price of this, instead of being around $9 with shipping for one, I got them for $5.50 is all I have in these now. So for $5.50, that's not a bad buy for this. The clip alone is going to cost you at least $2. I haven't looked lately. It might even be up to $3 now. Who knows? Plus the switch, which is going to be another $1. If you think about it, if I take $3 off the prices, it only cost me $2.50 to make this. And what's great about these is they all have, not unlike mine just slip on and off only. This has the clips on it. So when you put it on, make sure it's off, and you clip it down, it's on there. And to take it off, you got to squeeze the battery clips to remove it. Otherwise, you can't pull it off. So it locks down onto the battery like you really want it to if it's going to be something that's going to move around. So that's pretty good. And with this, that means there's no power there. And if I turn that on now, I could check I would have power. So it has its own built-in power switch too. The only problem with this one is that it's hard to adapt. That if I wanted to take and build a box and incorporate this in the box, it would be very hard to attach this in the box and get it to be sturdy for me to plug it in. Unlike with these, I can find ways to attach them pretty easily inside the box, and all you see is the opening for where the battery gets inserted through the face of the power bank, if that's what I was making. Anyway, it's still a good little unit for the price, I will tell you. But you do have to buy it more than one to really get a decent price. Otherwise, they're going to cost you around $10 a piece. But that's not a bad buy with the switch and everything for it. This is going to be great for me to make a couple of different types of lights that I want to make. This will be good for being able to do that. So stay tuned, and eventually we'll do some things with these. And I have 5 of them, so I have plenty of things to mess up. This one is, I only have, was it 4? Yeah, this one I have $4.50 in. Now this one is probably more comparable to this one because there's no lock on it. It goes on only one way, and it's on and blue, and you have power. No switch. So anyway, but what makes this thing unique is this one has the 3 terminals inside it, all 3 of them. This one only has the 2, so that this one can only be used to tap into the power and drain it out. You don't want to use this type of adapter to charge it up because this 3rd terminal right here in the front, that has to have some kind of communication of the power that goes into here, which is putting the power in. But this has to talk to the BMS through this one and to the fuel gauge so that it knows when it's fully up. And so Serendipity Sue, I believe is the name of his channel. He's made a lot of Ryobi battery items. And it's a good channel to watch. But he was doing some charging experiments, and he figured out that if you put a 1.2 kilowatt or a 1200 resistor, I think it was, between this 3rd post and the positive, if you put that resistor in there, then it will charge and update through the BMS what's going on with the state of charging in this battery and be able to track it. So you can actually get this cap by having the 3rd terminal. It can actually be used to make yourself some chargers if you want to do that. Now I could talk all day about chargers and Ryobi batteries and charging them up, because all the Ryobi chargers that I'm familiar with, I think they have a couple of fast chargers out there. I don't know how they really work, but most of the standard chargers that you can buy will only charge these things at about 2 amps an hour. And so what that means is that when you have only a 1.5 or 2 amp hour battery, you can charge it in an hour. But when you got a 9 amp hour battery like this that you're charging up, I'm sorry, you're talking about 4.5 hours to charge it up. Now, I don't know how they feel about this or whether it's true, but what I know about batteries, including batteries that they use in these things, you can charge them at a higher rate than a 0.1 C. And a 9 amp hour battery, you ought to be able to charge it at a 1 C. Most tool batteries, the type of batteries they use, they actually can be charged at a pretty high rate. The batteries I'm talking about, not what's going on with the BMS. And I believe I can actually charge this at 9 amps if I want to. I've already proven I can pull 10 amps out of these things, including the 5 amp hour battery. I pulled that at 10 amps and drained it and charged it back up. In a regular battery charger, to drain it, I drained it at 10 amps and it drained right down without any problem, didn't overheat or anything. So this battery, I think, can not only pull good power at 10 amps, but you can actually push. I should be able to push a 1C back into this battery to recharge it, but I have to make my own battery chargers to do that. This is going to make that job a lot easier for that reason. So I did buy 5 of these because I'd like to make a battery charger that I can plug into a 12-volt battery system and charge up my Ryobi batteries off that 12-volt system. And I want to be able to charge as many as 5 at a time. So I figured 5 was a nice round number, and that's what I would like to do. So I bought 5 of these. I'll probably end up with only 4 and probably destroy one of these and trying to figure out what's going on. I took this one apart. I was so curious about it. It just has a split right down the middle this way that you can pull it apart. And when you pull it apart, all this is you have these 3 clips. Those are all soldered onto a PCB, and along with these two wires. The positive pole goes to this wire, the negative post over here goes to this wire, and that third one is just isolated. It doesn't go to anything on the circuit board. So that means that if I could take and just put, and there's enough room inside this cap, I should be able to, on that PCB board, add a resistor between those two terminals and then put it back in here. And then this would be used for charging a battery. You could use this as the adapter to fit on the battery in order to charge. Let's try to prevent that. So that you can charge this battery using these adapters from one battery to another, which is what I want to accomplish. So I think these are pretty good. And at $4.50 a piece, they're not too badly priced. Again, it's already got the terminals on it, and that terminals alone would probably run me at least $2 for the one, and then the third terminal would probably run me another $1 or $2 to try to get it set up, and it would be a pain. Here you get it all in one for $4.50. So if you want to try to do any charging type stuff on these batteries and set up your own charger, these aren't too bad to do. That's the other thing I want to do, is I want to try to get a 10 amp power source, plug it into a buck converter, into a boost converter, because I would have it be putting out 12 volts, and I want to boost that to 20. And if I can charge this up in an hour at a 1C rate by doing something along that line, then I'll have a wall plug-in charger that'll charge up my Ryobi batteries at its full 1C rate, whatever it is. Now that one I'll probably have to put a constant voltage or a constant current switch on it to control the current, so I can set it to whatever the battery is and charge that battery at a 1C, no matter what kind of battery it is. If it's a 5 amp, I would set it to 5 amps. If it's a 9 amp, I should be able to set it to 9 amps and have it push that battery and fully charge it without any problem. So I'm kind of anxious to give that a try and get into doing that sort of thing with these. But these adapters are really very cool. Now, real quick, and then I'll let you go. There's 4 different types of adapters I have found out there on AliExpress. I'll leave a link to all 4 in the description, so if you want to look at them. The other 2, one of them is this adapter right here. If I took the light away, and there's a seam right here on this, so this upper part where the switch is, in here is where the circuit board and all that is. There's 3 screws here that if I took them off, I'm sure I would see the switch in the top of some kind of PCB with these 2 terminals coming through slotted areas. And the PCB is held in place by 3 screws up in this way. So I take these 3 screws off, and I'll be able to see where this switch is attached through the positive on this, and all these 2 wires then run right out to the light. And that's all that it is. It's running right straight off of the 20 volts, this panel. So, but buying just this one is actually generically is the best one to get. But trouble is, this one I can't find for less than $10 a piece, period. And that's as cheap as I can get it. And that seems to be a little pricey for this one, when I can get this one for $5.50 a piece. And it even has a switch on it. So, but they're out there. I'll wait and see. We'll watch this. But I'd like to have some of these one of these days. Like I said, these I've already got earmarked to do a particular type of job. These, I don't know what I'm going to do. But a lot of the stuff, I don't really want that switch on there. So this particular one would be really ideal for it. And they make a 4th type that's kind of unique. But instead of having a whole plate that fits around here, it has a plate that sets this way. And the part that slips on here is attached to that plate. And that plate has 2 little hooks on it that hook over these so that it locks in. And you just have this one plate and the piece right behind it, like this. Which is an interesting way of making an adapter and having it to be able to hook into there too. I'll leave a link to it. But again, that one is still, it's like you can't get it for under $10 a pop. So I don't know that if you want to spend that much for one, because those are the ones that you would want, one of those two styles. But you have 4 different styles to choose from, it appears. Now, some of these are also on Amazon, but on Amazon, actually, they cost you more. Sometimes you can buy it cheaper on Amazon, or as cheap or cheaper on Amazon than you can on AliExpress, but a lot of the stuff is cheaper to get it from AliExpress. So I'll leave a link to the AliExpress. If once you know what types this are and you're looking at it, you go on Amazon and look up the Ryobi, either Ryobi adapter or put in a Ryobi power wheel. And because they use these for adapting your Ryobi batteries to run power wheels, those little electric cars for kids. And they call it that too on some of these. So those 2 searches at either of those 2 websites will get you the result of several different looking adapters. But usually only these 4 styles is all I've seen so far. But that's more than enough. If you're going to create something yourself that you want to run off of Ryobi batteries, and this is the part that really makes it difficult. The rest is just all standard electric stuff. This is the proprietary part you need so that you can plug this battery in to use it. And they make some of these in other brands now too, like the Milwaukee and the Makita and that sort of thing. So if you have a different battery system than the Ryobi, there are some adapters out there, but they're still more predominant in this. And the other thing is, they have fans and so many different lights out there that you can buy that just slip onto your battery now that are not Ryobi made. Ryobi is in the flashlight business, but the aftermarket is, you're going to start seeing that out there too, making things for the Ryobi batteries, because they're not just for your drill and your tools anymore. These things are handy little power packs that you can make use of just about anywhere, generically. So just think outside the box and you'll be able to do it too. Anyway, I hope this enlightens you a little bit of what's going on. I hope that if you're going to make your own Ryobi type of stuff, these adapters, any one of these might be able to be what you need. So check them out. Tell me what you think. Any ideas? If you find something different than what I've already shown you, or you go look at those and find a new style, drop me a comment somewhere in any of my videos and I'll take a look at it. I would appreciate the insight. So I'm always kind of looking that stuff over out there and seeing if it's changed or if somebody else has added a new style. So at this point, that's kind of what I see out there. So anyway, if you want to play around with batteries and do some other things with them, for me, my main thing is to have individual power packs to run individual things, like one that could run my cable modem, and one that could run my, or some kind of outsource hotspot. If I want to be able to power that, I can power it off of one power bank. And I would just switch my batteries out on all these different locations that I have power plugged into. And every now and then, I can start my generator and run it for a couple, 3 hours at a time to do things that my power pack won't do. That way the generator doesn't have to run all the time while the power is off. In fact, this last time, it was only 4 hours. I didn't worry about it. If it's less than 24 hours, the freezers and all those things, they'll be fine. If I end up being longer than that, that's when I have to start kicking in and looking to my generator in order to not only help charge things up and keep them going, but to use some of the other things that these power boxes won't run. So anyway, food for thought. This is all part of my scheme of if I lose the power here, and I do think about that a lot. At this point, somebody has asked me about, well, what about heat? I do have natural gas, and when my power goes off, my natural gas still is there, and I can still use it. So my furnace would work if I could have the 110 power to run it. But it takes a lot. It still takes quite a bit of power to run a furnace. So I would run that strictly off of my large generator, where I plug it in to the whole house, and everything has power then. And I would switch between having that generator running to power the house or these individual boxes. That's kind of my theme of what I do. I call my whole system a FOGS, forced off-grid survival, because I don't want to get off. I make this stuff so that when I'm inconvenienced with power outage, I can at least get by and not have to be blindly sitting in the dark. So, and I think I've got a pretty good system going here. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. But, you know, your system may be different, and I'd love to hear your ideas about how you would do it. I know if I lived in Florida, this would not fly. So, you definitely would need a better system than what I'm talking about here. But for here in the Midwest, in Wisconsin, summer or winter, at this point, if I lose my electric power, which is possible, I will still be able to hunker down and survive because of all these things that I'm doing. So between my little power banks, and I would make several of them, you can't have just one power bank. So you can't buy just one Jackery or one Bluetti or whatever. You really end up finding you're going to need several different power packs to run a couple different things in your house when your power's off. So keep it in mind, if you're interested in discussing ideas or if you want to learn more about my ideas, I do have a playlist about fogs. And our portable power, I believe that is the name of the playlist. You go check that out and you'll see. So anyway, I appreciate you coming by. If you stayed till the end, my hat is off to you because I know I did a lot of rambling here. But these are a lot of things that I've been thinking about lately and figuring out how to make them work. So your ideas and comments would definitely be appreciated. If you learned something here, you like this video, hit that like button. Lets me know that I'm doing something right. Most importantly, though, please come back again because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.